In the opening scenes, we see a boy riding a bicycle in the park, but at some point he falls. The boy won't be coming home again. Next, we are shown the Harper family's house. While everyone is asleep, someone is wandering through the rooms. In the morning, Jackie Harper prepared breakfast for her son, but he didn't appreciate it. When the mother's phone rang, Connor asked suspiciously who it was. Jackie pretended not to hear the question. There was tension between mother and son. Jackie tried her best to mend things with Connor, but he wasn't in the mood to talk. When Jackie left, her husband Greg, who was sleeping on the couch, woke up. Greg told the son that he shouldn't have been so harsh on his mother. However, Connor couldn't forgive her father's betrayal. Walking up to the second floor, Greg noticed that one of the family photos on the wall was missing. Meanwhile, Jackie sat in the car, contemplating her fatal mistake. After some hesitation, she finally called her husband, who didn't answer right away. Jackie told Greg that breakfast was on the stove, but Greg didn't want to hear her and hung up. In a fit of anger, he threw the phone out of the window, shattering the glass. At some point, Greg noticed a cup on the roof, and inside were cigarette butts. Greg realized that Connor was secretly smoking. Jackie is a psychologist, and her husband is a policeman. He was investigating the case of Justin Witter, who disappeared in the park. All they found was his bicycle. There was a similar case recently. Michael King disappeared on his way to the convenience store. There might be a connection between these cases. A large-scale search operation was launched in the park, led by Greg. Meanwhile, Jackie returned home and discovered that all the silverware was missing from the kitchen. There were some strange noises on the second floor. Jackie went to check what was wrong. She got scared when a man came out of the bedroom. It turned out to be a glazier whom Greg had called to fix the broken window. When Jackie asked the worker who let him in, he said it was her daughter. Jackie was puzzled because she didn't have a daughter. The search operation continued. Detective Spitsky knows there are problems in Greg Harper's marriage and tries to support him. But Greg assured him that they could handle it. They were distracted by one of the police officers who found the first clue, a green folding knife. The mother and son had dinner without Greg. When Jackie tried to talk to her son, he got angry. Connor was tired of playing the happy family that his mother had ruined with her affair. He no longer wanted to see her and retreated to his room. Jackie was doing the dishes late when suddenly the TV turned on by itself. The news was reporting on the missing Justin Witter and Michael King. Jackie turned off the TV, but it turned on again. Greg returned home. Jackie asked her husband how his day went, and then she told him about the glazier, who apparently stole all the silverware. Greg thought it was nonsense, dismissively asking his wife what was wrong with her. Jackie was tired of her husband's and son's contempt, but for now she had no choice but to endure it. Walking up the stairs, Greg noticed that several more photos were missing. Someone had also released their hamster from its cage. When Greg tried to catch the pet, someone locked him in a closet. Greg assumed it was his son fooling around and demanded the door be opened, but there was no response. Eventually the door was opened by Jackie, who heard the noise and went upstairs. According to her, Connor wasn't home. This threw Greg into bewilderment. The husband and wife still didn't share a bedroom. Jackie realized that Connor wouldn't forgive her, but she was willing to do anything to make their family happy again. However, Greg no longer believed that everything will get better. Jackie couldn't sleep for a long time, just like her husband, who had moved his things to the guest bedroom in the attic. In the middle of the night, Jackie was awakened by extraneous sounds. Someone had turned on Connor's laptop. This seemed suspicious to Jackie, so she decided to check under the bed. Connor walked in, thinking the mother was going through his belongings. Seeing his favorite toy, Jackie asked if he remembered it. Connor coldly replied that he didn't. During the night, someone took the blanket off Greg. In the morning, he woke up to a call from the colleague who asked him to come urgently. Before getting up, Greg felt something wet. There was a puddle on the bed next to him. After tossing the bedding into the washing machine, Greg arrived at the police station. The police had a meeting regarding a case that was closed 15 years ago. The current perpetrator was acting just like Cole Gordon did back then. His lawyer wanted to use this fact to overturn the conviction. Spitsky was convinced that Gordon was guilty because undeniable evidence was found in the trunk of his car. Lieutenant Mariah Davis suggested they might be dealing with a copycat. Currently, the police's top priority was to outsmart the copycat. So they planned to meet with two victims who had survived 15 years ago. Greg and Spitsky promptly arrived at the first address. A guy named Tommy, having been psychologically traumatized, grew up unsociable and had many disorders. When the detectives started asking questions, Tommy panicked and screamed. Later at the station, Greg listened to a 15-year-old tape of Tommy testifying. On that fateful day, he and a friend were walking on the railroad tracks. A man living in a cabin in the woods was watching them. Jackie received a message from Todd, her former lover. He showed up at her doorstep. Jackie told Todd that he shouldn't be here because her son was at home. But Todd was very insistent. He confessed his love to Jackie, but she wanted to break up with him for good and erase him from her life. Suddenly, a cup fell on Todd from above. Todd got injured, and Jackie discreetly took him to the basement. Todd didn't seem to be upset, reminiscing about how he and Jackie had secretly dated in her parents' house during high school. Meanwhile, Connor was brushing his teeth when he suddenly heard voices from above. Jackie was tending to Todd's wound, planning to take him to the hospital as soon as Connor left for school. The guy looked around the rooms, trying to figure out where the voices were coming from. Jackie received a call from Todd. Apparently, he had left his phone somewhere. When she answered, she heard music. Indeed, someone had put on a record player in the house. Jackie asked Connor if he had been on the roof. The guy didn't understand what his mother meant. Jackie was about to drive her son to school, asking him if he had done something impulsive out of anger. Connor still didn't understand anything. Suddenly Mrs. Witter gets in the way of the car. She wanted to know if there was any news about her son Justin. Jackie assured her that Greg and his colleagues were doing everything they could. All day long, Mrs. Witter has been putting up flyers about her son's disappearance. Meanwhile, Todd, who had been waiting for Jackie in the basement, was searching for a first aid kit. Suddenly, someone approached him from behind and attacked him. All the concerned people in town are helping in the search for Justin. Greg speculated that Justin might have known the perpetrator. However, Spitsky, who found a fishing line and dry leaves, refuted this theory. Someone had been waiting for Justin in the park. After taking her son to school, Jackie returned home. When she went into the basement, she was horrified to find Todd lifeless. Greg, as usual, came home late. In a state of shock, the wife asked for his help. When they went down to the basement, Jackie explained everything. She hadn't called an ambulance for Todd because she was certain that her son had thrown that cup at him, as there was no one else upstairs. But Jackie never expected the wound to be fatal. Greg told his wife to calm down. If their son got caught, he wouldn't be able to protect him. So now they must act together to get rid of the evidence. It was the only way to help Connor avoid going to prison. While hundreds of volunteers searched for Justin Witter, the spouses went into the woods. Meanwhile, Connor returned home and as usual played video games. Greg and Jackie arranged a burial deep in the forest. The desire to protect their son brought them together. Connor heard strange sounds coming from the washing machine. Inside, Connor found the missing silverware. While Greg finished his work, Jackie tearfully asked for his forgiveness. Greg embraced the wife. Connor received a message from an unknown user who asked if he knew what frogging was. Connor Googled it. It turned out that frogging was a subculture where people secretly occupy other people's homes and use all the amenities like parasites. This discovery alarmed Connor. At that moment, someone quietly entered his room. This person wore a frog mask. The spouses returned home. Now they had to keep their shared secret until the end of their days. Greg was in the kitchen when he heard his wife scream. He rushed to the bathroom where Connor lay unconscious. Someone had attacked him. A green folding knife was nearby. Greg instructed his wife to rush their son to the hospital. Meanwhile, Spitsky learned from the colleague that someone had allegedly spotted the kidnapper and called 911. Spitsky was going to go to Harper, who no one could reach. Meanwhile, he's looking around the house. Someone's obviously been here. Suddenly, the music started playing by itself. Greg went downstairs, unaware that an uninvited guest was preparing to attack. Then events take us back in time. Someone is monitoring the Harper family's home, capturing everything on camera. When everyone left, a girl named Mindy and her friend Alec entered the house. They had never seen such luxury before. Mindy found a room in the attic where no one lived. That's where they'll hide out at night. Mindy wanted to make a documentary and spoke on camera about the Frogger subculture. They hopped from house to house, discreetly using all the amenities. They couldn't stay in one house for more than a few days, or they might get caught. Unlike Mindy, Alec was doing this for the first time. They were confident everything would go smoothly. In the middle of the night, Mindy made a video report. She was annoyed that Alec was smoking on the roof, as they shouldn't show themselves when the family members were home. Alec wasn't about to follow the rules, however. After waiting for Mindy to fall asleep, he took the camera and went to explore the rooms. He visited every member of the family, but stayed with Greg the longest. On the morning when Jackie prepared breakfast for her son, Alec was once again smoking on the roof, causing Mindy's displeasure. It was daytime, and someone could notice them at any moment. Mindy tried to explain to her partner how dangerous it was. If they were caught, they would end up in prison. Alec complained about boredom. He couldn't understand how Mindy felt. She had no place of her own, so she resorted to frogging to avoid sleeping on park benches or in the subway. Suddenly, footsteps were heard nearby. The young people managed to hide before Greg entered the attic. Seeing the cup with cigarette butts on the roof, he assumed it was left by his son. When no one was home, Alec stole a photograph. He also downloaded a remote control app for the TV on his phone. Alec suggested playing a prank on the family members and driving them crazy, but Mindy strongly opposed. The doorbell rang. It was the glass repairman. Mindy introduced herself as Greg and Jackie's daughter, while Alec went into the bathroom, and finding sleeping pills, mixed one tablet in a water bottle. The situation had spiraled out of control, so Mindy suggested they no longer go downstairs, even if no one was home. In the evening, Mindy read an article online about the disappearances of Michael King and Justin Witter. These cases really shocked her. When Alec offered her water, Mindy took it unsuspectingly. Soon she fell into a deep sleep, and Alec began to take action. Wearing the frog mask, he released the hamster from its cage and lurked, watching as Greg tried to catch the pet. When Greg climbed into the closet, Alec locked him in. The sense of power clouded the guy's mind. Night had fallen. Alec pulled the blanket off Greg and wet it. Mindy woke up only the next morning. Alec was once again sitting on the roof and smoking. Mindy asked him to come back inside. Learning that Alec had broken into the house at night, Mindy realized it could end badly. She explained that they weren't scaring people, they were just coexisting with them. However, it doesn't make sense to Alec. He said he really liked the feeling of power. Jackie and Todd meanwhile were arguing downstairs. At one point Alec dropped the cup, hitting Todd directly. Mindy regretted involving Alec in this, as he clearly had no intention of stopping. Their argument was interrupted by the sound of footsteps, forcing them to hide. Connor had come up to the attic because he heard the noise. Mindy firmly told Alec that they were leaving right now. However, they had to change their plan because their things were in the basement. There had to be a way to lure Jackie and her son out of the house. Alec suggested using Todd's cell phone, which he dropped. As expected, Jackie assumed it was her son who had been on the roof of the house. When the mother took Connor to school, Mindy quietly descended to the basement, but Todd was still here. Mindy hid, witnessing Greg come in and take Todd's life. It was crime of jealousy. For Spitsky, Greg pretended that he had come home for a folder with documents. Mindy now didn't know what to do. This house held many dark secrets. Pulling herself together, Mindy took their things and was about to leave, but she didn't make it in time because Jackie returned. Greg set everything up to make it look like Connor had committed the crime. This allowed Greg to manipulate his wife, who believed the son had done it because of her. When the spouses left, Mindy finally emerged from the basement. She was shocked to see what Alec had done to Connor. Mindy was about to call the police. Hearing this, Alec pushed her down the stairs. Mindy lost consciousness. Alec was confused, but not for long. He left Connor unconscious in the bathroom. To carry out his plan, Alec used a green folding knife found in the house. After that, he dragged Mindy and their belongings into Greg's car, planning to leave. However, the car wouldn't start. The spouses arrived, unaware that someone else was in the house. Soon they found their unconscious son in the bathroom. Jackie took Connor to the hospital, while Greg got into his car and followed them, unaware that Mindy was here. There was nothing Alec could do. When Mindy woke up, she tried to stay quiet. She knew that Greg was dangerous. There's still the crime weapon hidden in his car, and more. Discovering a t-shirt with the inscription Witter, Mindy realized that it was Greg who was behind all those disappearances. The policeman turned out to be the criminal. Greg arrived in the forest and went somewhere. Taking advantage of this, Mindy called 911 for help but couldn't even say where she was. Suddenly, Mindy spotted a cabin. This was the very cabin that Tommy had talked about. Mindy went inside. Michael and Justin were locked here, calling for help. But Mindy couldn't do anything because Greg knocked her out and dragged her back to the car. Among Mindy's belongings he found the camera, and after reviewing the footage, realized that she and her companion had been secretly living in their house all this time. Lieutenant Mariah Davis informed Spitsky about the call to 911. Someone claimed to have seen the criminal. Greg drove back home. Alec watched him carry unconscious Mindy somewhere. When Mindy regained consciousness, she was horrified to see Greg holding a gun. He ordered her to stand up. Alec heard a gunshot. Greg had taken Mindy's life and was about to find her accomplice. Putting on the mask, Alec was going to get out of here. He saw Mindy in one of the rooms. A few minutes later, Greg heard music playing and went downstairs. Alec sneaked up on him, and a struggle ensued. In the end, Greg knocked out Alec, planning to set everything up as if Mindy and he were responsible for the disappearances. Alec woke up and took a gun, telling Greg that he knew the truth. However, Greg found Alec's threats amusing. The police would think that two young people had supposedly broken into the house of the lead detective to intimidate him and his family. But that didn't stop Alec. He took Greg's life. At that moment Spitsky arrived, unable to reach Harper. He fired a shot. Alec immediately recognized Detective Spitsky. That same night, the police found the cabin in the woods. Jackie couldn't believe that her husband was the criminal all along. Justin and Michael were saved, and their lives were no longer in danger. Connor was in shock as well. It turned out that Alec was Tommy's friend. They had escaped together. For all these years, Alec had been preparing a plan of revenge. In the final scene, we see Alec being taken away in an ambulance. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel not to miss more exciting new products. Also, the authors will be pleased if you leave your opinion in the comments.